Hola, my name's Marie Belle, and I am from San Juan, Puerto Rico, and I've lived all over the East Coast of the United States, in Washington, D.C. specifically, and all over the coast. I get to practice and teach yoga all over the world, and recently I've been focusing more in teaching in Puerto Rico, Washington, D.C., Miami, and Costa Rica. I also host yoga retreats and teacher trainings. My practice is based on Ashtanga, and so in the mornings I practice traditional Mysore style, which means I move with my breath at my own pace. And it's a set sequence, it's very structured and clear. And I see it as though it's my daily brushing my teeth, where I don't have to think about it and I can just be fully present. From there, in the evening, sometimes I move a little bit more intuitively, and that's where you'll see more hip flows or more back bending flow, or just playing on my hands, because my body tends to pull for or call for, draw in a little bit more variety of movement. So where Ashtanga is very linear and structured, my body and my creativity also demand more attention. So in the evenings I practice more curvilinear and more multidimensionality in my practice. I teach Ashtanga, and then also I teach technique workshops. So I like to really break down postures. I think about the postures often, and so I can break them down into very clear alignment principles. I have found that if you have clear structural foundation, you can express more clearly. And usually one foundational alignment principle will apply to everything. And a lot of my workshops will focus on very clear alignment principles. I also teach some Dharma yoga. I trained with Dharma Mitra and I love him. And I really just like sharing the practice, and he often says, make everything an offering. And so that's where I teach from. So depending on which country, which city, which town I visit, I just ask the community what they need and we'll move from there. So yoga has completely restructured my whole life. I started off in a very linear path. I went to college, went to graduate school, I got my PhD in psychology, and I taught at the university for 10 years. I taught psychology and developmental psychology, social emotional development. And I'm very interested in how we are programmed or taught or socialized to think about, talk about, and express our own emotions. And for a long time, I saw my psychology scholar self separate and different from my yoga, meditative, nomadic self. And gradually, yoga has started fusing both of those, and now I can speak from a higher place. Specifically, yoga to me, for a long time, yoga was defined to me as union or yoking or bringing together. And the more I practice, the more I realize that it's a little bit deeper than that. And yoga is the realization that there was never any separation to begin with. And as we move through life, we start decompartmentalizing ourselves. And yoga has helped me bring back all aspects of myself so I can practice more deeply and more intuitively and intelligently. So I accidentally found myself living in India. I thought I was going for a month. And then I started practicing and getting more into meditation and just being on my own and just really releasing everything that wasn't me anymore. And gradually 1 month turned to 3, and I wanted to explore not just the south, Mysore, but then I went to the north in Rishikesh and the Himalayas and the Ganga. And I fell in love there, and from there I went to Dharamshala, which is where the Dalai Lama lives. And it was just amazing, and from there I decided I wanted the beach, so I went to Goa. And the cool thing with the United States is we have a 6-month visa, and I stayed there for 179 days. And like the last day I could, I had to return. And then I did it all over again and went to Kerala in the south, where Ayurveda was born. And I love exploring India. It has so much potential and so much richness. It's 3 times the size of Europe, so there's quite a bit to explore and see. I was at Virginia Tech in 2007 when the shootings occurred, and so when that happened, a lot of trauma occurred and I just completely shut down. and I wouldn't make eye contact with anyone. I wouldn't speak. I wouldn't share. I just was very angry at the world and at God and at everything that comes with that. And my mentor looked at me and she said, "You should really talk with someone." And at the time I didn't want to talk to anyone. And so instead she told me to start mindfulness meditation. And there was a course in that 12-week course. And I didn't really vibe with it, but I liked that we didn't speak and we didn't make eye contact. And on the 6th week of 12, we did this thing where all of a sudden I just started speaking. And it was specifically mindful movement. And we would step on the grass. We were to be barefooted. And we'd step on the grass and just see what it felt like to have the earth underneath us. Was it young grass? Was it old grass? Was it dry? Was it wet? And gradually I started feeling my body again. And in that I grounded down and I was able to feel more clearly, and I just started speaking again. And so I connected to my body, and from there the counselor or the coach was telling me that you should really try yoga again. And from there I started and I didn't look back, and I promised myself that I would heal myself with the practice and just move in silence and gradually meet people who would support me in the process. The practice on the mat and off the mat are pretty parallel to each other, and whenever I'm very busy in the mind or very anxious and I feel my heart contracting or I feel I don't have enough time, I get on the mat and I make sure to do the opposite of that. And so if I feel I don't have enough time, I just purposefully move slower. If I feel that my mind is very heavy and anxious, I breathe deeper, and so my breath will be louder than my thoughts. My heartbeat will be the rhythm of my practice versus my mind setting the stage. And I see the practice on the mat as a good balance, to bring whatever is going on in my life to the surface and to a place where I can observe it from a more panoramic perspective. So I can take a step back and just see the stillness within what appears to be movement. And you'll see as I teach or as I practice that in the apparent movement there's a stillness, or there's this heart space, or there's this fulcrum that stays still and everything's allowed to move around it. And I've just learned in my practice that everything's allowed to exist. And sometimes there's ease, sometimes there's stress, sometimes there's pain. And my practice on the mat allows me to be more compassionate and kind and slower off the mat.